watch me before you do this yourself. So we've learned a little bit about the perspective of our player and what they can see and experience. We've added our vehicle and we've added our obstacle now. So we're actually going to reposition our camera in our scene so that way we can actually get a better view behind our vehicle. So what we're actually going to do is instead of using our transform component on the right side, we're going to make sure we select our camera. And in the top left, you can see all of the different tools that we have. So for now, we're going to make sure that we have our move tool selected. It's those 4 arrows in those 4 different directions. So remember, Control and hold, and then left click on the red arrow. And so we can move our camera on the x-axis here. And I want to get it to 0. Cool. And now I'm going to keep my mouse cursor in our scene view, and I'm going to press F to focus so I can shift the perspective again back onto our camera. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this blue arrow so I can move our camera behind our vehicle. So if I left click and press and hold our control key, I can move our camera back somewhere to around, say, there. And then the same thing with our Y. I will press the control key and hold and left click and drag. So we'll put it somewhere about there. Cool. So now our camera, if I focus back in by pressing the F, and then I'll reposition my camera of our scene view. Now you can see that our camera, according to our preview, is just looking straight off the road. So that's not a helpful perspective at all. So we're going to reposition this camera this time with our rotate tool. So if you go to the top left of Unity, you can see this circle arrows. If I click on that, our rotate tool is selected. And now, in fact, you can see all of the different arrows have turned into lines. But these lines are actually well aligned to all of the different axes that we were playing around with before. So the X, the Y, and the Z. Now, to make it a little bit easier for us, I'm actually going to go to the top right of our scene view, and you can see this handy little gizmo over here with all the different arrows. In fact, if I click on this green Y arrow here, you can see our perspective actually shifts to a top-down view from what we would see on the Y. And so I'm going to reposition back over the camera. So now I can very clearly see this green line, which will actually rotate around our y-axis in this case. So if I click on the green line, I can rotate our camera by dragging it to the right or to the left. So I want to drag it, we'll say it's about there. And maybe I'll clean this up a bit later. So that's a good behind view. And now, in fact, I want to get a better perspective on our car. You can see it's not entirely in frame. So if I click on this opposite arrow of our Z arrow, this will actually, instead of bringing us to the front of our camera, this will put us behind our camera. And so now you can see we have a better view of our Z axis here. Actually, in fact, I want to go to the X, so I'm going to go to the side view, click that. There you go, better. So now you can see, we can see the Z axis, so this will actually rotate our camera up and down. If I click and hold on this, I can drag it down a little bit, and now we have a really good view of our vehicle. In terms of other tools that you can use to make it easier, so on the top left with all of our different tools, we have all the way on the left-hand side our hand tool. So in fact, if we select our hand tool and we left-click and drag around our scene view, you can see actually this is very similar to just moving our scene view camera or scene view perspective. The tool next to it that we were playing around with, that's our move tool. So we can move our camera or any of our objects in these 3 different directions. Let's see if I can get that X back. There you go. Cool. Now you can see all the different arrows. The tool next to that is our rotate tool, which we use to rotate our camera down towards the player. The tool next to that is actually our scale tool, which in this case wouldn't really do anything because we're on a camera. But if we were to select our obstacle or our vehicle, we could make our vehicle larger if we wanted to. The tool next to that is our rect tool. So this actually combines the move, rotate, and scale tool all in one tool. However, this is only very useful for 2D. In fact, if I select the vehicle, you can get a better view. There's this kind of rectangular outline around our vehicle. So useful for 2D. In this case, we have a 3D world, so that doesn't really help. If we select the last tool all the way on the right side, this actually combines our move, rotate, and scale tool, and you can actually see all of them around our vehicle. So you can see the rotate tool around it. You can see the movement arrows. If you click on this gray box, you can scale your vehicle up and down. I don't want to do that though, so I'm just going to Control or Command Z to undo that all the way so it's back to normal size. So you can actually use this tool to control all the different aspects. Useful little tip to actually scroll through all of those. So if you actually just press the Q key on your keyboard, it'll select the hand tool. If you press the W key on your keyboard without doing anything, it'll select the move tool. If you select the E key, that's our rotate. If we use the R key, that's our scale. If we press the T key, that's our rect tool. And then if we press the Y key, that's all of our tools together for our 3D space. And then one last thing that we can do just to see and make sure that our main camera is set up properly, even though we can see it in our camera preview, is if we go into our game view again by pressing the play button at the top, you can see now our perspective has shifted from side view to behind our vehicle. So that's very helpful. So what you're going to do is you're going to select your main camera and you're going to move the camera behind our vehicle. And then you're going to use the rotate tool to rotate the vehicle into the frame of our camera. Now it's your turn.